Now we will start with our UFT overview and what are the features of UFT. Okay. So currently I have installed UFT 12.51 on my machine. Okay, and which is there in the HP's official site. So one can go to the HP official site, can register himself or herself and can download the trial version for 30 days. Okay, so this is how the UFT looks like. Now I'll walk through to the different features of UFT and different facilities provided by UFT. So you can see here, this is our start page. On start page they are saying that we have GUI testing forum, API testing forum and business testing forum and different types of help centers. So GUI testing means testing of a application, so normal application like web based or a Windows based. API means application program interface, where we involve web service testing, or where we can say testing from the backend. Then business process testing, where we test the business logic or business scenarios, business requirement. So in QTP, so you can create 3 types of tests. So if you say, now again I will repeat, go to new and select new test. So it will select or it will allow you to create 3 types of tests like GUI test, API test and business process test. Whereas business process flow is nothing but a part of a business process test. So we can have multiple flows inside a business process test. Now let's take an example of some simple GUI test where we will give the name as simple test for the beginning, and you can select any path or the folder from your file system to store that or save that step. Solution is nothing but if you want to add multiple tests in a one single solution or in one single center place, then in that case UFT allows it through a solution. Now in this case I'll just create simple test and a single test and I'll say create. So currently UFT is loading and creating that test. Side by side I'll just open an Internet Explorer, just our Google page. Till the time UFT comes up with the new test. Yeah, it is still creating this. So when you have freshly installed or freshly launched the UFT, sometime it does take some time to load the particular test or to create a particular test. One important point, always open UFT or QTP first before launching the application, because if you launch the application before QTP launching, in that case QTP will not be able to identify the objects correctly. Choose your home page. Okay, fine. Now so our UFT has created our simple test and it has come up with a by default action 1. Now I will explain what are the different views and what this whole QTP editor comprises of. So as I said, simple test is the name of test. It is by default loaded with action 1. What is action? Where we will provide a sequence of codes or sequence of lines of codes. And start page we have already seen. Now here below there is something called as output. So if I use print or message box statements in QTP, it will show the output here in this particular window. Active screen means as and when I write some lines of statement here, and when we record it from the application, it stores the screenshot of application in the active screen part. So you can very well right click on any of the line of code and it will show you the screenshot or active screen. Data is nothing but a data table. It is nothing but something similar to our Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. By default, each test has a global data table where it will be a standard table by default provided by UFT, and it will have number of local data tables per the number of actions. So for example, if I create new action here, say right click, action, and call to new action. Let's give action name as new action or action 2, and it is a reusable action. That means I can reuse it again in later part of my test, and click on OK. So now the difference you will see is it will create local data table action 2. So the number of actions we go on adding, those many number of data table or local data tables will get added in the below. So per action, for each action one local data table. Errors, this window, when we do control syntax, control F7 or check the syntax, it will display what are the errors in our logic or what are the errors during compilation. So that those are the errors. So it will have errors, warnings, messages, etc. And watch is nothing but to see the value of a variable or the object at runtime during execution. Now on the left hand side we see Solution Explorer, where Solution Explorer means it is showing the name of the solution. Currently I haven't given any name, that's why it is showing untitled. In that solution I just have a single test, that is our simple test, and we have just now added action 2 and action 1 is a by default action. Now let's go inside our top menu bars. So in file we have new. So from new you can create test, business component, So you can create business component. Solution means a solution will comprise of multiple tests. Functional library means where you write your own functions. Application area will come into picture of where we use business process testing. So application area means an area where I store all my functional libraries, my tests, my object repositories and my recovery scenarios. And GUI test from Sprinter end, there are different more features provided. Similarly, the number of features provided. So I was saying under file open we can open different types of tests like GUI test or API test or business process test or different types of flow. So you can open test from either from file system or from HPALM or HPQC. Then under file open we have similarly business component, solution, function library, application area and file. File means notepad or VBS file. Similarly, we can add different types of tests. Whether they are new or existing. We can close different types of function libraries or tests. We can close solution. We can save and save as our test. Save all means if you have opened multiple documents, then it will save all those documents at a time. Save other means skipping the current document, it will save other documents. Recent means which test I just now opened, so I have selected simple test. Before that I have opened banking application test and blah blah blah. Settings, whereas in settings we provided what are properties to be used or by default properties, what are the add-ins. I'll come to the add-ins part later. And resources, environment variable, Java, web. So these are the different settings provided by QTP by default. You can very well change those settings as per your requirements. Export test. So you can export your test into some notepad or VBS file, or you can import another notepad or VBS file in QTP. And last is nothing but close QTP. Now inside edit we have very common edit features like we have in Excel, Microsoft Word, like undo, redo, copy, paste, format and etc. Whereas last part is a code snippet which will help the beginners that how you write if statement or conditional statements or for looping statements like while, for loop, then do while loop, do until, and what are the differences in them. In view, now in inside view we have just now browsed through our views also. So Solution Explorer is the one which we currently have. Toolbox is nothing but here. As and when we load the view, those different types of toolboxes where we say my function libraries names will be here, my local functions will be here, my test object or object repository will be here. Now view properties. So at the same time, so for example, if I close this and if I right click and say properties, it will show you the properties of an action. Properties of an action, whether what is the name of action, where the location, where it is stored, what is description, whether it is reusable, can I make it unreusable and all. do I need to be forcefully keeping reusable or not. And here you can provide your input and output parameter. So using that you can create add input and output parameter. Apart from that, inside view we have data. So that was our data table. I have already shown you. Then output is same. I have shown you. Similarly, I have shown you errors, active screen. Yes, debug means I can insert a breakpoint. So for example, currently I am writing message box. Let's say Tejas, and I am not sure whether my this statement run or not. So in that case, you can insert a breakpoint here. Okay. So in that case, you can use a breakpoint. So you can say debug breakpoints. At the same time, debug can help us to call different options. Then you can check the local variable. I have shown you that this watch and console means you can at runtime write a QTP code at runtime also, because inside the editor it will not allow, but through console you can write the runtime code also. Task, different tasks which it allows. So task pin, what are the different tasks I am performing in this action or in this test. Then search results, bookmarks. Test flow is nothing but this, the initial, that this is my action name, action 2 what it is doing, start and all. This is nothing but a flow chart. Run step results, so you can execute the stepwise result. Start page. Last run result means what was the result of the execution of my current test when it was executed last time. Reset window and switch to BPT view and different views. Inside search it is same, control find and replace. So if I go in action 1 or in where I have written action 2, then here you can use control F from keyboard or use control H, where you can find a particular code snippet and replace it. So it has provided different features also with that. So that is inside search. Inside design, yes, so this is very important menu where you can call to a new action. So for example, I showed you there is one more way through which you can create a new action. Click on right click and say action and call to new action, or call to copy means the action is already exists. I just want to read only copy of that action. Call to existing action means load existing action completely in my test, and call to an existing test or an action. You can even call existing test also inside an action. So similarly inside design, those are the different options. Checkpoint, yes, as I was talking in slides presentation that we can use image checkpoint. So checkpoints are nothing but different validation points, where if you want to validate a value at runtime, so using checkpoint we can do that. So we have database, XML, image, standard, and different output values. If I want to capture the output value in my QTP script, I can use the output value. Start transaction and end transaction are for recording the time taken for executing a particular flow, test, or an action. Check syntax to check errors during compile time or during design time. Step generator, QTP itself will generate some simple steps. And function definition, so using this you can create, or you can say a function definition or a function framework or initial part. So for example, if my function name is test and if I say OK, so it will say public function test. By default it will create public function. Inside record, you can record a particular application, and even that there are multiple options like record web based or record other settings. So if you go on that, it will list down different add-ins and different technologies it supports, like mobile, Sybil, Flex, Windows, SAP, Flex, Java, web. Okay, so by default we select first radio button so that it can support any web-based application, whether it is launched through manually or whether it is launched by QTP. Whereas the second radio button says UFT or QTP will open that application, but you need to provide the URL or the path here. Okay, so that was inside the record and run. Inside run, there are multiple options, like if I do F5 it will run entire set. Run now will run only a particular part of a test. Recent report will generate the reports or launch the reports of recent actions or recent tests. Step into means it will go inside that particular code snippet. Maintenance run mode means during design time, if I want to run and just check the